Hey class, I want to go over a couple of things regarding the first essay. Um, First, this PowerPoint. I only have 15 minutes, so it's not going to be a long video, so don't worry about that. But I do want to cover a couple of important things regarding this first essay, which is due next week, okay? So remember, all of the stuff that's in the modules, that's there to help you guys. It's there to point you in the right direction of how to analyze literature, what to look for. Um, and the instructions, especially, are pretty specific on what I'm looking for in this first essay, okay? So, um, this PowerPoint, this is from the 1301 book, the Norton Field Guide. And you guys already took 1301, but I find it's really helpful. Um, and it breaks down, the key features of a literary analysis and all that. So, key features. First thing you need in this essay is an arguable thesis. You should be able to argue whatever it is you're trying to say about the short story you picked. Okay. You also need to make sure that um, this is a valid argument, right? And that people should take your position into consideration. Okay. You're not summarizing. Remember, do not just summarize the story. Okay. If you're just summarizing the story, that is no good, right? If you're just summarizing the story, you're just telling me what happened in the story. You can have a little bit of summary in the essay. It should be no more than a couple of lines, though, right? Um, at the beginning of the essay, just letting me know what the story's about and then getting into your analysis. So don't summarize. Remember, don't summarize. Pay careful attention to the language of the text. Okay, so look, see if there's any images, specific words, metaphors, what's happening in the story. Look at it clearly. This picture of the text under a magnifying glass. That's what you're doing. You're reading it and rereading it over and over and trying to see what's happening within the story. Are there any things that are that stand out to you, right? So, also contextual information, cultural, historical, biographical facts. You can, if you want, you could bring that into the analysis, but this is more. That would be more for um, a literary research paper, right? Obviously, you should try to find out what's happening. What was happening around the time the story was written. Is it important to what's happening in the story? But I'm looking more at for looking more for you to read the story and try to come up with um, something interesting to say about the story. Another way of looking at the story that than what is typically, or the way it's typically seen. Okay, attention to patterns and themes. Analysis are built on evidence or meaningful patterns or themes within a text or among several texts. These patterns and themes reveal meaning. So remember, a theme, guys. Do you know what a theme is? You should know a theme is the lesson, the underlying lesson of the story. What is the lesson? Why is it important? Clear interpretation. So you need to interpret this story in your own, you know, in your own words, right? You read it, you interpret it whichever way you want, but that's these stories all have you can interpret them in different ways, okay? All these stories I've posted, they're fantastic stories, and there's um different ways you can interpret these stories. So why should I pay attention to the way you're interpreting it, right? What are you bringing to the table? Why is your interpretation valid, okay? So when you write a literary analysis, you show readers one way the text may be read and understood. That is your interpretation. So what is your interpretation of Araby, of The Swimmer? What's your interpretation of any other story that's on there, right? Consider the rhetorical situation, the purpose, right? Always when you're writing any essay, what's the purpose, right? Are you trying to offer your own interpretation? Yes. Are you trying to demonstrate a particular analytical technique? Maybe. Combination. If you're responding to an assignment, does it specify what you need to do? Yes. Right. The audience. Who's your audience? Pretend your audience is somebody who's never read this story. Okay. So how much do you need to include in your essay to you know be clear for your reader, right? Now, your stance, how can you see your subject they're interested? curious eyes and step back in order to see what your observations might mean, right? Well, I mean, you need to first and foremost read the story over and over and over again and you know invest yourself in it, right? So generating ideas in text, look up at your assignment. Does it specify a particular kind of analysis? Yes, all this we're going to cover right now in the instructions, okay? Study the text with a critical eye, right? Read it. I keep saying this, guys. Read it over and over. This short story that you pick, read it over and over and over again, okay? If you've only read it once and you're ready to write the essay, not good. You need to read it at least 3 or 4 times before you actually get an idea of what you want to say about the story, right? So study it critically, read it over and over again. Generating ideas in text continued. Um, choose a method for analyzing the text. We're not going to cover this stuff, but this is all here there for you guys to. Excuse me, sorry, my phone just went off. For you guys to peruse, okay, and read carefully. All right, read the text more than once, like I've said. Read the text carefully, right? The language, the words, metaphors, imagery, what's happening in the plot. Find evidence to support your interpretation, right? This is important, guys. You need to, and I'll reiterate this in a bit when we're covering the instructions. You need to show evidence. Don't just tell me, oh, well, this happened, this happens, and this is no. Show me. Quote specific passages from the text, guys. If you don't quote in your essay, if you're it's just interpretation without quote, without showing support, you'll get maybe a C at best. Okay, so you need to include specific passages from the text, quote these passages, and then interpret them. Okay, cite and document sources appropriately. Use MLA citation and documentation style format. Excuse me, the documentation style format quotations properly and use signal phrases to introduce quoted material. Additional help. There's some additional help there. So let's look at the instructions real quick here. Here we go. Okay, it's down here. Literary analysis number 1, fiction. Okay, this is simple. Okay, this talks about what a literary analysis is at the beginning. The point of a literary analysis is to show another way a text might be read or understood. Yes, your interpretation, right? So this is your interpretation, not anybody else's. A literary analysis is an argument in which you argue that your interpretation of the text is valid. The thesis must be arguable and not obvious, okay? Since it is an argument, the literary analysis goes beyond simply summarizing the text. So don't summarize, like we've mentioned. Look at the specific language, the words, images, metaphors, contextual information, elements of fiction, all that. Last week, if you guys noticed, you should have read through it. I posted the elements of fiction handout or a link to a handout for the elements of fiction discussing plot, point of view, character setting, all that stuff. That's in the first week. Okay? Again, go back, read through the those elements of fiction, that link to the elements of fiction. Make sure you know exactly you know what those are. So whenever you're reading your stories, um, you can analyze them, right? It starts with knowing, though, about characters, about plot, all that stuff. Okay, so once you formulate your interpretation, you must use evidence from the text and format your essay according to MLA style. Remember, you must use evidence from the text. For this essay, choose one of the short stories in modules, or excuse me, in the week's 1 or 2 modules, and write an analysis essay. What you say or which story you pick, what you want to say about the story, it's up to you. This is 1302. I'm not gonna, in my 1301 class, I usually pick out prompts or I assign prompts to specific stories for students to pick from, but this is 1302. That's doing half the work for you. You pick a story, one, only one, and write an analysis essay. Okay? Essays should be in MLA format, 2 to 3 full pages in length, double spaced in 12-point Times New Roman font or 11-point Calibri font. At least one outside source is required to support your argument. And remember, back to your 1301 days, you should have um, an MLA heading, on your essays a title. So you should have a title. I'll probably go back and make sure that's included here in the instructions because some of you may forget. But remember, you need an MLA heading on the top left-hand side of your essay, with your name, instructor's name, class date, all that good stuff, and then an original title. Do not just title it essay number one, okay? So this is due, I was gonna have it due on Sunday, but I'm gonna have it due 1 week. So you have one full week, okay? It'll be due next Monday. Next Monday by 11:59 p.m., guys, okay? Now, this is worth 100 points. Here is a rubric. This is the criteria I'm going to be using in order to grade your essays, okay? Make sure you go over this, see how many points are allocated to each criteria. Like essay formulates a focused, arguable, defendable thesis. You should have a thesis statement, original ideas, okay? Provide substantial support from the text. Essay uses language that is concise, clear, appropriate. Incorporates at least one outside source within text, so you need to include an outside source, remember. And remember to include support. This is one of the most important ones, guys. If you don't have any support from the text, if you're just telling me the whole time instead of showing me where in the story, that's 20 points off right there. The highest you can get there is an 80, and that has to be a perfect paper without any support from the text. So that's hard to do. Make sure you include support from the text. Um, all this is there for you guys to check out. Okay. So those are the instructions for the first essay. Again, you can pick any of these short stories in the week, the first 2 weeks. Okay. Remember, also the elements of fiction handout right here in the first week. Go over this stuff on your own. This is Freytag's pyramid. Um, Plot, characters, talks about how to analyze settings, how to analyze characters, characterization, plot structure, all that stuff, guys. This is all here, conflict. Make sure you go over this and you have a solid foundation of what makes up a short story, what makes up fiction, and then read your story that you're gonna write about, I'd say 5, 6, 7 times, and then start your essays, okay? Um, this is good information here, guys, in the elements of fiction. And not just this, but also, let's go back. A lot of the other stuff that I posted for you guys, characters in fiction. Um, what else do we have? All these stories are great. I hope you guys have read through them. Let's see, symbolism in literature, mining literature for deeper meanings, a guide to themes in writing and literature. Remember, a theme is the underlying lesson that the story is trying to tell us, right? Theme in the story video. I posted some videos as well, the writing process. This MLA workshop, guys, remember if you forgot from your 1301 class, if you totally forgot about MLA and how to cite, go through this MLA um, documentation and style guide. When you should cite, talks about how to cite your sources, right? Remember, if you're quoting within the body of your essay, you need to cite um, author's last name, page number, right? And then at the end of your essay, you should have a where is it? A works cited page, right? Which is like right here. So all this stuff, it's there to help you guys. If you have any questions, y'all, please, please do not hesitate to ask. Um, I'm here, right? I'm also available during office hours. Remember that. So if you want to meet, we can. If you need to ask any questions about this, about the second discussion, which is already up, also, which is this one's due Sunday. I'm here for anything. Okay, just remember that. It's just because this is an online class doesn't mean I'm not gonna be at my computer or you know uh, somewhere else and not responding to you guys. Okay, so there's the instructions. Discussion number two. I'm gonna start grading first discussions today, so those should be graded soon. Okay, guys. If you have any questions, please ask, and let's get to it. Okay.